y'all don't really want it like, yeah. Here comes the, no, here comes the, oh, here comes the, y'all don't really want it like, yeah. Here comes the, no, here comes the, oh, here comes the.
Yeah, Sooner Soundwave coming back at you for episode 16. I'm Iceberg. Alongside me is the Goodfella.
Boomer.
And St. Pablo.
Sooners.
All right. First things first, need to give a shout out to all the viewers from episode 15. We knocked our viewership out of the park. We had over 161 views last week. So thank you all for viewing. Thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for commenting. Hope you enjoy the show. We're coming at you this week after a victory in Norman. OU had it all out in front of them. Win and you're in is what everyone's saying. OU slowly but took care of business, knocking off the LSU Tigers 17-13 in a slugfest again, a defensive battle. Defense wins championships, fellas. What do you think?
Defense wins championships. That's it. Win by one, win by half a point. It doesn't matter. You know, I've been dragging the offense all season. I've come to a place to where this is as good as we're going to see them play all year. Anything better than what we've seen thus far, it's just icing on the cake, right? So I am confident in our defense. I'm confident in what they did last week against LSU, a team that, yes, they lost their head coach, but they came into Norman looking to win that game. They came into Norman looking to get their look back from last year, and they played a pretty impressive game. It was it got to the point to where I felt like the first team who was able to score a touchdown had the potential to win the game. You know, it was 6 points total until we got into the third quarter, and LSU was able to score. So a really close game, great game. You know, clutch Mateer is what St. Pablo gave Mateer his name title. I think it was last week on the episode 15. You know, I kind of got to give it to him, man. I wouldn't say clutch. You know, that's a lofty title, but I will say he did come in and make some plays where it counted. He made some plays that I felt like showed potential of, you know, some flashes of what we saw the week 1, week 2 of Mateer early on in the season. There is still some things that we can kind of go back and forth on in regards to, is he able to see the field fast enough? Is he getting to his reads fast enough? Like, you know, that's going to happen. And that's what I came to a resolution to where this is as good as our offense will get. I believe Venables is okay with where we are. You know, he after the game, he just kind of talked about, you know, win by one. You know, win baby win is what I was saying all week 15 going into this game. That was our only goal, is to win each week. It didn't matter if it was a glaring win or over the hump win. The name of the game is win the games as they are in front of you. So, yes, I'm excited to see OU back at number 8 after winning against LSU. Great game on the defensive side, decent game on the offensive side due to the injuries with our backfield. We were just limited to strictly passing the ball because all of our running backs are right now, they're in the shop getting repairs because they're all tore up. You know, we've seen Ott come out there for one play last game. He threw a horrible block, but he got in front of someone and was able to get that pass across the middle to score our first touchdown. So just, some glaring things that I noticed that I feel good about our defense. I think Again, our secondary has grown right in front of our faces. Seeing them do some amazing things on that our defensive side to win the game. With the interception, with the last play of the game, fourth down, rollout. That was a gutsy play by our defender, Bowen, in regards to not dropping back, trying to get the defender. He's like, you know what, I'm going to go at this quarterback. He's going to have to make a decision. Either he's going to run me over or run the ball, or he's going to throw it. And he threw the ball like that's a classic ending of a game that I've seen in a long time in Norman, in which we've had a lot of those this season, just because how gritty our defensive side has been this season. It's been really great to see some solid football. Um, yeah, that's what I have on my. I mean, the game. I would love to see it again.
Yeah, I think Brent Venables talked a little bit about that. That ending. They've been practicing that scenario and preparing for it because they felt like that's what had cost them, and there would be a setup in some of these games in the SEC. These final plays, it comes down to that one play, and they were prepared for that, much like the Alabama deal. But I'm going to make this case. I mean, the Sooners finish the season in the SEC on the defensive side, number one, and the number one defense in the SEC. Absolutely phenomenal accomplishment. And to speak to that, just to validate that further, not only were they the number one defense in the SEC this year, the Sooners had a regression in running the football this year, which puts more time on the defense. We ran the ball worse this year, 2025, than we did in 2024. A major regression in running the football, which also, though, validates the fact that John Mateer is clutch. You put pressure on the offense. He finished sixth in the SEC in individual passing yards. The major upgrade for the offense was in the passing area. This year in the red zone, the Sooners were 100%, granted due to field goals. Tate Sandell did not miss a lot of field goals, but also the Sooner offense was clutch in that area. And John Mateer, connecting with Burks and connecting with Satania, these big plays made a huge difference in the Sooner offense in the passing area, where we did improve in comparison to last year. Last year, we were right around 15th in the SEC ranking. This year, there was improvement in some areas. Our scoring offense went up to 12th. Our total offense did not improve much. We moved up to 14th. Passing offense went from 15th to 9th in the SEC this year. So that's a major upgrade. And so his appropriate title is clearly clutch. He's a clutch player. He is not perfect. Anyone that, anybody that was wanting to replace him or bench him, and there was a lot of that going on in the stands, I think is just ridiculous, in my opinion. You have to stick with the guy. You got to fight through. We are at 10 wins.
Hey,
10 wins. You do not
let me
substitute.
let me jump in here really quick though. I will say this: I was that guy on Saturday to throw 3 interceptions in a must-win game. 3 interceptions in a must-win game. It got to a point to I think I was texting you guys about is Hawkins still available for the
I thought you
losers
were
race.
I thought you were joking. I didn't believe that you truly meant that. I'm talking about there's stuff on social media, there's stuff in the stands from Sooner fans, that to me, it's beyond ridiculous that people would call for that, because the guy, first off, we exceeded our expectations and our win total. You're at 10, you're still in that ball game, even with those interceptions, and he's going to fight. There's no way. And I appreciate the fact that Arbuckle and Venables and all these guys, you got to stand behind and support this quarterback. And he's done a remarkable job. for the Sooners. I stood by this, and I still stand by it right now, that all we needed was a little bit of improvement on the offensive side because our defense is that elite. Our defense got better this year, which is even more remarkable in some aspects. And then with the defense getting better and some slight improvement on the Sooner offense, you see that where we're at. Now, if we can run the football, we have some time here, and I don't know if you can fix that problem or not. But that will be the critical area in us advancing into the playoffs. We have to be able to run the football and be a legitimate threat on the ground going into the playoffs.
Hey, let me tell you why I was in a little panic mode though. The last time he threw 3 picks, we lost, and that was against Texas. Well, I was in pure panic mode. It's like we've seen this before. He threw 3 picks in Dallas.
I understand. I understand the panic, but let's go back to the Texas game for just a brief moment. Even in the Texas game, and even with the turnovers at hand, if you remember, there was still a chance in that ball game till that punt. The punt kind of sealed the punt return. The punt return sealed the deal. So
that's the same thing in Ole Miss game. The Ole Miss game, the punt fumble was
right.
That killed the game. So yeah, that's why I was in panic mode. So he did his job.
Boomer Sooner. It truly is the Sooner magic. Remarkable year. I think that I'm in probably the same position you guys are in. I'm getting a little too old for this type of a season where it is so close all the time and it's down to the stretch to the very last moment. It's wearing me out in a good way, though, because ultimately we've come out victorious and have had an amazing season, and hope, 4 more games left, hopefully into the playoffs. But just an amazing year for the Sooners.
Yeah, I never felt good before this game and during this game until the final 4 minutes, right? Couldn't get anything going offensively. And just when you feel like we were getting something going offensively, we throw an interception. Here's one. If I have one critique on Mateer, and I have a lot less critiques on him than a lot of people, you got a lot of the old timers and sometimes even the new timers that don't like the little 3-quarter release. I don't mind that. I think you change your arm angle, and that keeps the defensive lineman from being able to bat the ball down, and you've got different fits and different windows. But the deep ball trajectory has to be a higher trajectory. You can't throw a laser deep ball. And that's, 2 of his picks came on laser deep balls instead of getting the ball up and trying to throw it over the wide receiver's shoulder. So I think that is something he needs to work on, or they need to work on him with. Other than that, he's kind of a bend but don't break kind of guy. A lot of people compare him to Baker Mayfield. He's kind of like Baker Mayfield, guys. I mean, he's going to have his shining moments, and he's going to have those times when it's like, crap, he really screwed that one up. I wish he wouldn't have done this, or whatever the case may be. But, I guess I'm not going to say anti-clutch. I'm still going to say average. I'm not going to say anti-clutch because he does enough to get the job done. But if we didn't have as good of a defense as we do, we'd be in trouble. But that's not the case. Our defense is stellar. One of the things I keep going back and watching are the replays of watching Venables only on the last play of the game. Has anybody else seen that? He is smiling and giddy from the moment of
he knew it.
Snap. Like he knew exactly what they were going to do, and he knew they were prepared for it. And he's just like, and then all of a sudden they did it, and just celebrate. I've watched that probably 15 times now. Just watching him be able to feel that from the time the play clock started rolling until we batted it down behind the line of scrimmage. Throughout the game, if I was watching the actual football game in the bleachers without a board or anything, and you would have told me that Mateer had 318 yards passing, I'd have called you a liar. I did nothing about any of those drives to me felt like 318 yards passing. But guess what? He did. We saw more Torrey Blaylock than we saw Xavier Robinson. I was having a conversation with the folks that I was watching it with. Xavier Robinson is more of a patient runner. He's going to wait for the hole to develop, and then he's going to hit it. Torrey Blaylock is the holes, it's zone right. I'm hitting right hard, and I hope there's going to be a hole there. And if there is, you better look out because he's going to bust right through it. Two different types of runners. So that was fun to watch. Satania, guys, Satania is the clutch. Satania is a clutch wide receiver. When we need something, like he does it, and that's been fun to watch. The running game. I truly believe, and I feel like I've made excuses for the last 3 years. Our offensive line was completely out of position. Okay. The left guard was playing center. Somebody got sick, so somebody else had to play. We have 3 true freshmen. I think I heard a stat saying we have not played with the same starting line any of the 12 games of this season. There's something to be said about that. You look at our injury reports every week, there's at least 3 to 4 offensive linemen on it. And I'm also here to say I don't know that those guys coming back are the answer, because I feel like what we have going is working, and we have some continuity. Working in quotes, right? Because it's not like we're gaining a whole lot of yards. But I don't know that this is a time when you completely change chemistry and end up not getting a block that you should have because you've changed, the chemistry of the offensive line. Defense, again, fantastic. Bend but don't break. And I know LSU's quarterback isn't very good. I think he has potential, though. He has potential with his feet. He's dual threat. Wasn't very good. But LSU's defense is nothing to shake your head at. And so while it was a squeaker of a game, LSU had everything to gain and nothing to lose. And we had everything to lose and everything to gain. And so I think the makeup of that situation is why we saw a low scoring game. We're not the high scoring offense, that we were at the beginning of the year, because our opponents are more difficult, in my opinion. There was also another moment that I found interesting, and I didn't have time to go back and look, but I think it was somewhere end of first, beginning of second, and the camera pans over to Venables and Arbuckle as Arbuckle's fixing to call the first play, and Venables is hollering something at him probably 4 feet away, and it shows Arbuckle saying, "I understand, I understand, I understand." That was almost like, hey, we need to do something, or you need to keep my defense off of the field for longer than you did in the last 2 drives, because it was 3 and out a bunch. But at the end of the day, Sooners came out victorious, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like those games. I don't like those games, but I like those games.
You like the victory, but the stress is sometimes there. But yeah, no, I think running the football is, everyone knows that is our weakness on the offensive side. So you're setting back, and you are creating more difficulty for the Sooners in the passing game if you are the opposing team. That is going to be the protocol. They're going to dare you to run the football, and they're going to be expecting the pass, which is going to put more pressure on the quarterback to make these. And he's going to keep fighting, and he's going to keep finding the holes. And eventually, like in this LSU game, they're going to come to fruition. And so that was beautiful to see at the end. Now, that wind in his face on that last drive, to your point on arcing the ball a bit, it was a good thing that he has that kind of, great arm strength, great passing in that time into that win, because it truly had somewhat of an effect on the game and game planning and management and the score, the overall score for both sides. It's not, that was a different, little bit different game. And it's going to be interesting if the Sooners get a home game in Norman in December. It's going to be cold.
I had forgotten about the wind. The wind was definitely a factor. You could see it. Both coaches mentioned it in their post-game press conference. You're correct.
Yeah, in December in Oklahoma, it can be warm, but man, if it gets one of those extreme cold weather scenarios, that's going to be interesting. And if there's a playoff game in Norman,
What a great problem to have. What a great problem.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So Sooners come out victorious. All eyes were on the college football playoff ranking release, which has happened. There's turmoil everywhere, top and bottom, except for the number 8 slot. One of the things that didn't change was the number 8 slot for the Sooners, but their opponent did. So let's take a look at this here, if I can get to it.
Is it there?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
The college football playoff. OU comes out hosting Alabama. I'm going to go ahead and say it as we get started into all things college football playoff. I would rather play any one of these other 11 teams than the Crimson Tide. Match me up against Georgia. I don't care. Give me Ohio State. Give me Indiana. I do not want a rematch against Alabama. I don't care where it's at. That is not going to be fun. We upset them last year. We beat them this year. Man, I don't like a rematch against Alabama, but there's a lot that could happen this week. St. Pablo, What are your thoughts?
Well, to counter, just to be devil's advocate to what you're saying, the spread is larger, against Notre Dame when Notre Dame was slotted to play us in Norman. I think Notre Dame was a 4.5 favorite. Alabama, what I saw early on, is like a 2.5 favorite over the Sooners in Norman. And to make the argument even further, this Brent Venables has Kalen DeBoer's number. We are 2-0 against Alabama. So, I mean, why would we not want to host Alabama in Norman and have another shot to do what we have done to the Tide? We have rolled them over and over again.
Hey, St. Pablo, did you watch that game this year?
Which one?
OU versus Alabama.
Oh yeah, I watched it with great joy.
You told me you want to see that if you have a choice.
All I know is the most important.
I want to be weird in the playoffs, and then not really play. But if I have a preference, I'm not pulling Alabama out the bucket. Like, give me Alabama. That's not my decision. First round. Second round, we can do that. First round, I'm not pulling Alabama. You can do a poll. We can do a poll and see. Maybe for our next conversation, who would you want to see first round of playoffs, and see what the fans say.
Let's run through some hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, the likelihood of this staying the same is 0.
Correct.
Ohio State and Indiana play. I could see, if anything, I don't think either one of those two teams drop out of the top 4. I really don't. I think, the winner will go to 1. The loser may go to 3. Agree or disagree?
I personally don't think there'll be any change to that. I mean, other than, Well, I don't think. First off, I think Ohio State will win. Indiana will lose. It'll still be 1-2, though, in my opinion. But you're exactly right. I 100% agree with you, Iceberg. There, Alabama will not be your first playoff game for the Sooners because win or lose, there's going to be movement. I envision that if Alabama beats Georgia, if they were to beat Georgia, they're probably going to move into the top 4. They will be the SEC champion. They will move as high as 4. And then there'll be a lot of, I don't know where you'd end up bumping Georgia, but you're not going to play Alabama in the first round. If they lose, Alabama's probably going to be 10.
So do you see OU moving up or down? With let's say Bama loses, they stay where they are, right? No movement. Let's say Bama wins. Where does OU go then?
I really feel like OU stays at 8. If Bama wins, I could see a top 4 because they're the SEC champion. I could also see a 5 there. But I do agree with an SEC champion getting a bye just because of the strength of the conference. But I see OU sticking at 8. And here's what I see. I think it'll either be Notre Dame, who jumps into the 9 spot, or the committee gets the final opportunity to make it right between Notre Dame and Miami and bumps Miami ahead of Notre Dame. I have yet to hear a great argument for why Notre Dame is ranked ahead of Miami. The great thing, gentlemen, I don't think Texas has a shot. BYU.
Yeah.
What I also think this will make this interesting. If BYU becomes the Big 12 champ, Texas Tech stays in, but BYU comes into the field. In my opinion.
Yeah, and that is I agree. And if BYU comes into the field, that's where you could see a lower seed for the Sooners. You could lose home field advantage at that point.
Yeah.
And like we've
You could
mentioned,
see an OU BYU matchup.
Yeah.
You could drop OU to 9 and put BYU at 8. I mean,
right. But like we have mentioned, that's not a bad thing for the Sooners necessarily because we've been amazing on the road. If you want to take that route, I'd still want a game in Norman.
It would be very nice. It would be very interesting. The other thing that I've heard, and we talked about this offline, is if Duke beats Virginia in the ACC championship game, Duke is not ranked high enough to be the ACC champ. However, they're a Power 4, and how can you leave a Power 4 conference out of a 12-team playoff? That's where a Miami could peek in to the 12-team field also.
Man, it feels good to be number 8.
Well, it does, but it's also, I don't know that we're set at 8. I think there's some moving and shaking that can happen. Here's the other thing I think about. Okay, Ohio State just guaranteed their offensive coordinator is going to University of South Florida. Yeah, he's going to continue to coach, but you don't think he's thinking about South Florida right now? Indiana's fine. Texas Tech is fine. Georgia's fine. Ole Miss, that complete debacle that happened over the weekend. We've got some staffs that are shaken up too. Oregon, they've lost, I think, both their coordinators, offensive and defensive. Granted, they're probably going to continue to coach in the playoff, but still, their mind is potentially elsewhere in building a program, especially this time of year. And then the group of fives. Every single one of the group of fives that is potentially a playoff team possibility, their head coach is going somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And we've seen the committee that they bumped Ole Miss up a spot, improved them a spot with their head coach Lane Kiffin taking another job. That to me was interesting, to go the opposite direction of what people thought they would, or even stood still. They improved a spot.
Yeah, that was surprising. Losing your coach and rewarding them some spots due to that. So I guess they're just really confident in their offense. The coordinator took over as the head coach, so I don't know. That was interesting to see that.
And not to look ahead at all, but I watched the Ohio State Michigan game. I'm not scared of Ohio State. We matched up with Michigan. And realistically, if you compare statistics with our game versus Michigan and Ohio State's game versus Michigan, not that much different. Not that much different. And I'm more inclined to fear Alabama, more inclined to fear Georgia. Indiana's just an oddball. That's just a weird one to me. I'm really interested to see them face Ohio State, see kind of what they're all about. Texas Tech is the most expensive roster in the NCAA. Did you guys know that? The most expensive roster in the NCAA. Yeah.
Well, we talked about it, but with the Big 12 situation, they made all the right moves when Texas and OU slide out. And I think that was part of the complaint of maybe Mike Gundy and OSU, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I like the 8 or 9 spot. But the 7 or 10 spot, if Indiana's the number 2, I don't hate that either. I honestly, if we're looking at this bracket right here, I hate our first round game more than any other game that's out there. Bama round 2 / round 3 after we upset them last year. I don't know. I don't like that matchup. Unlike you, St. Pablo, that likes the matchup.
Well, I mean, I like the matchup just because we are 2-0, and the first game we dominated at home, and that was with a quarterback who's not as clutch as the quarterback we have now. The second game, we go into their house and we upset them, put a lot of pressure on Ty Simpson. He makes a lot of mistakes. There were turnovers that were still on the field that there could have been more, So I like the matchup. I mean, I like the psychology of it, and I love the fact that it potentially be at home. And so I don't know, the only thing that has me on Notre Dame is that their strength, it seems to be running the football, and that's our strength on defense, is stopping the run. And again, you saw that in the LSU game, how well we were able to shut the running game down. I mean, either or, Alabama, Notre Dame, you're in the playoffs, and if you can kind of hold that home field advantage, I like the first round chances. It's amazing to me, though, that the odds to win the playoff, to win the national title, that the Sooners are so low in that odds ranking to win a national title out of all of these teams. I still think the Sooners are a very dangerous team with the number 1 defense in the SEC coming in here. That may be speaking to the fact that we can't run the ball, and we're actually running it worse than we were last year, but we are passing it better, and hopefully there's time to improve. But
that's why I'm not as confident with playing Bama again. If our offense was like, I can't identify a strength on our offense. Like, there's nothing I can identify and say, hey, we are good at this going into the playoffs. If we have that outside of field goals, I'll be more confident in playing Alabama. But we're easy to figure out on offense.
Well, I can identify. I can identify an area that we are strong in on the offense. The Sooners are very strong on explosive plays. When we find it, Burks had his first touchdown since Michigan, which that to me is crazy. That Deion Burks, he had his first touchdown against LSU in that LSU game. It's been since Michigan, but he's an explosive player. Satania again has been kind of our explosive player, but we do have.
Are they explosive plays or busted? Like I think I'll take the touchdown, but I think the play was to Satania was a busted coverage. Like it was a busted coverage. It wasn't. He didn't do anything spectacular outside of they ran that play earlier, and uh, it was open, but Mateer didn't see it. So they went back and moved him over and ran it again because his eyes go to number 5. Wherever 5 is, that's where Mateer is going. Like everyone knows that right now, right? So it was that play. I think that play was a good development play, but I do believe it was more in regards to a busted coverage from LSU more than anything that we did offensively. It was just a busted coverage. He was wide open when they said Hut.
Well,
So
yeah, but the rhythm and the tempo and the play call again, lends itself to that coverage, misread. So, I mean, yes, he was wide open, but the Deion Burks touchdown, great execution on that kind of tunnel screen pass play for when these athletes that we have on offense are able to get free, that they're going to make those big plays, and then so yeah, I mean I agree with you, but we've had it all season long. It's been kind of the marquee part of the offense that at some point there's going to be an explosive play, even if it's a run. You look at the Ole Miss game when Xavier puts us right back in it with a 60 some odd yard run when he breaks free. I mean, we're going to keep hammering at you, and these athletes are going to get there. So, it'll be interesting to play a non-SEC team. To go back to the Notre Dame deal, it'd be interesting to play a non-SEC team and see if the offense does look a little bit better. Because we have been up against some really strong defenses. About the only defense that I can say, 2 of them maybe on the SEC schedule that weren't as strong would have been, and we put up quite a few points, was Ole Miss and also South Carolina. And we did tend to control the South Carolina game with the offense pretty well.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
The other thing I keep thinking about too is with the manipulation that you can do with the college football playoff with the teams that are playing in the conference championship weekend. My hope is that the committee will do everything in their power to refrain from a rematch, an in-conference rematch in the first round. Right? Like, surely there's some thought behind, Alabama and OU've already played. Okay. We're one spot away from not giving the nation something they've already seen.
Well, I think they did that though. I think they did that. You're not playing Alabama. There's no way you're playing Alabama in the first round.
That's what I'm. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Like I think Alabama has to move, no matter win or lose.
Yeah, right. They're going to move, win or lose.
Which is an argument against everybody that said previously, up until Tuesday night when names escaping, committee chair said that's not the case. Everybody previously to Tuesday night said you will not be punished for playing in the conference championship. You can be. You could move. You could move. So
yeah, you could move, but they're not going to move. You're punished. By punished, I don't think my idea of punishment here is that they would drop out of the playoffs. Is that what you said, Goodfella? Yeah, that's fine. I mean, now will you lose some seeding? You know, I mean, if Alabama goes and they lose to Georgia, you know, they're going to bump back on some of their seeding, and they're going to reward someone else with a little bit of a higher seed. But they're not going to drop them out of the playoffs. That would be the punishment. But it's interesting that you bring that up because maybe that's what they meant too. Maybe there is no movement, and maybe there is a chance that we play Alabama. I don't know. That's a good point.
Okay.
Man,
That'll be interesting. Final rankings come out Sunday. I believe it's afternoon. A longer show. During the season shows have been about 30 minutes. So looking forward to Sunday, which comes after Saturday. Saturday being conference championship weekend. Gentlemen, give me your what's your intriguing conference championship game of this weekend that you are looking forward to most watching? I'll start. I'm going to say the Big Ten. I want to see Ohio State matched up with an Indiana that I feel like Indiana's just odd to me. Like, you guys know this. I thought it was a super good lock when I picked Oregon to beat Indiana by whatever that spread was, and Indiana just made them like it. That was the same week that we were all in Dallas for OU Texas. I thought that was the best lock I've had all year, and it turned out being the worst. I just feel like it's almost like Revenge of the Nerds or something. Like they're just a bunch of misfits that all of a sudden they play well against Ohio State, who everybody is so high on, even St. Pablo. I saw your facial reaction when I said I would rather play Ohio State because I like that matchup based off of what I saw against Michigan. I don't feel like they're the best team in the country. I honestly don't. So I'm intrigued to see the Big Ten championship. Basically, what I feel like is potentially an overrated Ohio State versus just an Indiana team that I can't figure out how the hell they're winning.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. Ohio State and Michigan is a very intriguing ball game. Ohio State. What scared
Indiana.
me about them. What's that?
You said Michigan. You meant Indiana.
No, well, no. What scared me about Ohio State in that Michigan game,
Oh,
though, is
okay.
that it was so businesslike, and they did not seem to even really. They got kind of punched in the face a little bit, or whatever. Tapped on, slapped. Some people call it a slap in the face by Michigan early on, right? And they just didn't even seem to really care that it was the biggest rivalry, on their schedule. They just went in and took care of business. And that's a big deal, man. Go up there and do that, especially with all the stuff that was hanging on. But I am also very, the game that I am most interested in because of the Sooner scenario is the Georgia-Alabama game. It's very intriguing to me. That would be, if you said you had to choose which game to watch and only one, I would click on the SEC game. It'd be a close second with Indiana because there is some interest there, but I more concerned what happens with the SEC championship and to see if Kirby Smart can defeat Alabama. There's there's that just that hump to get over there that he can't quite beat Alabama. And so that would be the game that I would click on.
Yeah, I would agree. I would go with the SEC championship game first. But I'm also intrigued with Indiana, Ohio State, because I don't know. I haven't had a chance to really sit down to see Indiana. I saw Ohio State last week, so I am kind of curious to see what they can do against Ohio State, a team that they will see again, possibly depending on the trajectory they do in the playoffs. So I don't know what Indiana can do. I think I caught maybe 20 minutes of one of their games when they were down. I can't remember who they were playing against, and they scored in like the last I don't know, 10 seconds. It was like a toe touch in the end zone, back of the end zone. But yeah, I'm intrigued to that game. But the go-to game for me on Saturday will be the Georgia and Bama to see again if Georgia can, or if Alabama can beat Georgia. I'm kind of on the fence. I want to see what they can do.
Something to think about here. You've got Ohio State coming off of an emotional rivalry win. Okay. You've got Alabama coming off of an emotional rivalry win. Was Georgia Tech was this last weekend too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was, relatively.
Solid.
I mean, yeah, it was a solid football game. So you've got Georgia coming off of a rivalry emotion. So there's a lot of potential for emotional letdowns for a lot of teams playing this week too, coming off of rivalry weekend, which is something that probably needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Yeah, the only
and not to forget BYU Texas Tech. I mean that with an outsider of the playoff field looking to come in, BYU's backs against the wall. Texas Tech, I don't want to say has nothing to lose, but they really have nothing to lose other than ranking.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that I want to add to any of this discussion is that I've heard so many pundits and, the journalists and, podcasters and everybody else talking about the, Texas scenario being in the playoffs. And I stand in the firm camp anytime in this, and I know you guys do too, I believe, but on the merit based, what you earn throughout a season to get in,
Sure.
yes, like I don't get into this eye test thing either, and I wish that would be kind of, wiped out, like, because that's going to take away the entire season of college football if we start, doing the eye test and subjective type thing. So there's no way, looking at everybody who ended up 10-2 and the quality of teams they've played, and I just can't see any way that there's a solid argument for Texas to get into the playoffs with 3 losses. No matter what they say about Ohio State, no matter what they say about Georgia, playing Georgia, they lost to Florida. And so you have 3 losses, and you're in this situation when others have so many, above them, that they should make that argument to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, so it's deserved versus earned for me. But I think that what we say about Texas negates a little bit of Notre Dame being in the college football playoff field right now. I don't know that they have earned a spot to be in the playoff field. I think they're deserving because they're one of the 2 lost teams, but they really haven't beaten anybody. But I definitely agree with you. Texas, you shouldn't have lost to Florida. You screwed up. You beat some people, but at the end, thank you for scheduling a game week 1. I watched that game, and I'm thankful that they did schedule it. And I would hate for teams not to schedule games like that in fear of not making the playoff, but don't have a hiccup against a Florida. Don't go to overtime against Mississippi State, one of the worst teams in the SEC. Don't go to overtime against Kentucky, one of the other worst teams in the SEC. You don't deserve it doing that. You need to earn it.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, even with Notre Dame, though, when you have 2 losses, you're comparing them to the other 2 lost teams. And so I agree that Notre Dame may not look as strong in comparison. Like Vanderbilt, I've told you guys this, I believe Vanderbilt's really the one getting screwed in a lot of scenarios, because if you do take the Vanderbilt name off the helmet and put on a big name on that helmet, and you say they're 10-2 and they did this, resume of work, you're saying they're in the college football playoffs.
Yeah.
And so
I think we know why that's happening, though.
why?
Why? You said why?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't.
I mean, I don't know. I think in regards to SEC, do you want to have that many teams in there? Like they can't give it all to SEC and say, hey, you can have 3 or 4 teams in there, because then it'll be, why not just have 2 conferences? Why not just have it to where it's Big Ten and SEC, and let's just play football? You pick a side and play football. So they're doing it because they can't give that many bids to the SEC.
I'll trust you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably right. It's just, is that right? You know, I mean, that is probably what is happening to some level. It's just not. Is it fair? Is it the right thing to do? Are you getting all the best teams in there? You know, and Vanderbilt certainly deserves some conversation in that regard, because you take OU and compare their schedule and their victories to Vanderbilt. And even such, if you're to do that, or say, do you want to go play Vanderbilt? You know, they are a lethal team. And so and it's a difficult conversation, you know, just in the number 8 seed that we are. You take everyone else behind us, and it makes it even more uncomfortable for them in their resume. So anyways, that's about all I say on that. But thank you for explaining why, because I think that possibly is the reason.
Yeah.
Okay. We will wrap up the CFP conversation and be back next week for the final CFP ranking show for us on Sooner Sound Waves. Let's shift to locks of the week, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have your locks of the week.
I have mine. I lost. I've been in the tanker,
Okay.
and it's getting pretty upsetting. I had Texas losing last week against A&M, because A&M, again, they have more to win, in my opinion, than Texas at the time. A 8-3 Texas going into a 9-3 Texas going into that game. They're out the playoffs anyway. Yeah, they're fighting, but realistically, a 3-loss team getting into this gauntlet of a playoff right now is pretty difficult. The percentage game is not in their favor. So I did have them making I think it was like a 2.5 spread, was the coverage, and they ended up beating A&M by 10 points. So I don't know my record. What is my record, Iceberg? It's definitely not good.
Your record is 5-10.
Hey, I'm into those. I am going with a team. I am going with North Texas. Their coach is headed to Stillwater, Oklahoma. So I have some buy-in there in terms of going for the home team. Not the team, but a home team. So I have North Texas with a 2.5 favor over Tulane for the American Championship game on ABC, 7 p.m. Friday night.
Ooh, Friday night. Didn't realize that.
Friday night game.
Okay. Well, yeah, the great thing about Texas A&M is they gave the Longhorns false hope about getting into the playoff, and that was just absolutely fantastic. So, St. Pablo, you want me to go, or you want to go next?
It doesn't matter.
I'll go. I'll let
Okay.
you have the finale. I had Alabama at a 6-point favorite versus Auburn. I covered by the skin of my teeth. And so that makes me 10-5. 10-5. St. Pablo.
Hey, listen, I'll give you props. That's impressive. It's about as impressive as predicting the Sooner total of 10 wins and 2 losses, as such I did at the beginning of the year.
Correct. Oh, yeah. And by the way, none of us got really close to the score predictions for the LSU game.
It was so bad. After a second quarter, I was like, yeah, there's no way.
Yeah. So I am going. This is completely. This is probably a shocker here. I'm going to go with Indiana +4 versus Ohio State. So Ohio State is favored by 4. I'm predicting Indiana to either win or lose by less than 4.
I don't know. I have full faith in you. 10 wins in a season. This is probably the best. We've been doing this a long time. I don't know that any of us have ever got to 10 wins. So hats off to you in that regard.
I feel like the winning record's usually been just a touch above 500.
Yeah, like 8,
like
maybe
8 and 7, or something.
Yeah. So I think roll, baby, roll, because I think maybe if you keep rolling, so do the Sooners.
Well, let's hope.
And 10 wins. I love it, man.
Let's hope.
All right.
Pablo, what do you got?
Well, I got even, and then I fell back in the doghouse. I lost Vanderbilt. That's why I was kind of advocating so strongly for them. I thought it was an impressive win to go into Tennessee and do what they did. They did an amazing job defeating Tennessee on the road and actually handled them pretty well. They are a solid team. So I was not a believer. I am now. If you can go into Tennessee and do that, that's a serious team right there. And they upset me as well in my picks. So I am 7-8. I'm hoping to get back to 500 with this pick here. I'm going to go with Texas Tech to cover the 12.5 over BYU. I like the fact that you're on turf at Jerry's World. I think Texas Tech is going to be fast, and I think they're going to be furious in the Big 12 championship.
That'll be an interesting game. Like I said, Texas Tech has nothing to lose. BYU has everything to gain. But I do feel like that was a complete mismatch. If you watch that game the first time they played, like Texas Tech was just so much more athletic than BYU. So
might be the same.
Yep. Okay. That'll do it for episode 16. College football playoff rankings will come out on Sunday. We will have an episode next week discussing the college football playoff final rankings, where the Sooners fall, who their opponent is, the location, and who got snubbed and who did not. So please view, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Also, we'll have one last pick on the Army-Navy.
Yes.
Finale of the season. It's the finale of the college
season that has nothing bearing on it except for nothing bearing on it, but we'll pick Army-Navy next week as well.
And thank you.
So we can sit back and watch football.
Country.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt that. I'm going to say it's a good week to watch football. Good week to watch football and don't have to worry about being in the playoff or not. We're in. We're in, guys.
Let's hope.
We're in playoff.
Be idle and move. Boomer.
Sooner.
Texas sucks. Have fun watching it.
And they're not in the playoff. Boo, boo, boo.